From Sunset Beach, Hawaii, weighing 267 pounds, the magnificent Muraco.
Why is it they call him magnificent? The man who lifts condominiums off his chest. Anything that's explosive, anything that's exciting, Prince of Darkness, Master of Destruction, perpetrator of violence. Get ready! I'm gonna burn this place down!
Hello everybody, it's James here with Don Muraco's Magnificent Podcast. We'll do some quick plugs, some books. I've actually rearranged everything behind me, so there's not actually any books behind me practically. But Owen, Hart and the Rock books on Amazon.com or .co.uk or whatever, blah blah blah. God, intros are not my forte, and we're going to be talking about some news, Don. So I've sent you some stuff, what's happening in the news in the wrestling world that has piqued your interest.
Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins yesterday. Seth Rollins has fallen into the Triple H mode. He's got the Triple H position where he's putting over all the top baby faces, and he's hung on to that, and they gave him that goofy heel persona where he's crazy and stuff, but that guy's a hell of a worker. And Cody Rhodes is, I think he's the way I look at it, it's the first pay-per-view, without Roman and everybody else. It was like the whole pay-per-view was pretty much his own, and a lot of the big angles from the other TVs aren't on it. So I don't know what the buy was like, because it was like the third time around, and the blow off in the cage, and it wasn't maybe not that heavy of a card. So I wonder what the buy was like, but it was his own, evidently, like you said, he's signing deals and stuff. That was all his, he and Seth Rollins.
The big story is that you can't help but notice that Cody went into the match with a entirely torn pectoral muscle. I know you've done wrestling on, pretty severely pulled groin, done some other injuries like that, but I mean, how dangerous is it to do a match like that with a torn pec?
Dangerous? I don't know. I don't know the extent of the pec. I'm sure you can probably, probably certainly can, do further damage to it, depending on the tear and stuff. I'm no medical doctor, but you can't I went in with the torn groin. I just couldn't walk. I was hanging on the Fuji and the ring guy, to get in the ring, and I was able to get in the ring and pulled myself up, and the next second, I was getting solid. It was just a fast one. I couldn't walk. That was pretty much it. But evidently he's doing all the moves and stuff. So it was the way they report all the haters. I look at a couple of the real serious Vince McMahon haters gave it a 5 stars.
Professional haters are these, or are these just like amateurs?
Oh, there are some guys that Vince is really giving the business, giving the old what is it, Roto-Rooter treatment to. You'll be familiar with that. The old camera up the keys to. Some of those guys, I don't know what he did to them, but they just, they're just haters, just hate.
Well, here's something interesting then. So, obviously, back in the territory days, it's the Wild West, but these territories would still have to deal with commissions, and occasionally you would have to go through a medical. How did the medicals vary from state to state, or were they all pretty much ridiculous and wouldn't find anything?
They were pretty much ridiculous. You wouldn't find. One time, the guy wasn't going to let in New York, at Madison Square Garden in the afternoon, some doctor came over officious. He wasn't going to let John Studd wrestle. So I had a handful of Tylenol 4s, and he took them, and he was able to bend, and get in the match. But one guy, aside from that, I've never seen, hardly ever seen anybody get, rejected for, you'd be laying there in a wheelchair, with a feeder going in your mouth. As long as they're getting their $100 from school, and you can go do whatever you want to do.
So what was the test? I mean, was it just like blood pressure, quick
But
prostate exam?
They wanted to bend his knees, do a squat, bend his knee, see if you could move his knee.
Oh, that's it. Was anyone more thorough ever?
No, it was a joke. They would, just blood pressure thing. And then some doctors would write scripts, and if you knew the guy or something, you could hit him up for a script or something. But it was just, it was just a joke.
With what was I going to say? Yeah, I'm trying to think. With commissions and WWF, even in your later years in the WWF, was there nobody in the company who would look at somebody who was hurt and just go, "Not tonight"?
No, I don't think so. No, I can't. Well, most of the guys wouldn't show up, if they were hurting that bad. This is evidently this is a big pay-per-view. So they got and his own pay-per-view. So he pretty much had to work, pretty much had to produce something. So
Okay, right. We've got some more stuff to go through. Anything about MJF, the guy who decided not to show up for a fan fest and then ended up turning up to the pay-per-view to do the honors?
Did he quit? Oh, he did. I thought he quit AEW. Was it MJF?
Yeah, MJF. He did a sort of semi out of character interview where he had some grievances on Dynamite, or the most recent episode of Dynamite as we record this. They cut his mic off. It was meant to be reminiscent of the CM Punk pipe bomb interview some 10 years earlier.
Oh, I don't even know that one.
Okay, we'll leave that one.
These guys have issues now, though, I suppose, huh?
There's a lot of people who seem to be leaving. I mean, there's Kota Ibushi, there's Sasha Banks, Naomi.
Yeah. A lot of politically indignant souls running around.
Yeah.
It's
what would you do?
Kind of money now.
I mean, I know what you would have done when you were in the territory. You would have just not turned up or given your 2 weeks' notice. But let's say you're under contract to Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you deal with creative direction that you were not happy with? Would you just not turn up again, or would you just ride out the contract?
No, the older you get, when you get a family and everything, you just got to swallow, and then take it. Other guys, and then it was at that time it was moving though. It was moving I hadn't gotten that way yet, but Flair had done his manipulation in the South, and with the NWA and stuff, and Hulk was behind the scenes, and all the guys were getting a big pull. We're working behind the scenes there with Vince. So and everybody else. Then the contracts came and the merchandising. So nobody was going to. You look at it now. Who did I say? Just the other night they have Gordon Ramsay, the English chef.
Yeah.
He's got TV shows all over the United States. And where was I going with that? I lost myself. But how he's oh God, what was I talking about? I was trying
to wrestlers leaving.
Yeah,
without notice, breaking contracts.
Yeah, well, they got I lost the train of thought.
Do you know what, Gordon Ramsay? Right, I can't stand the American versions of the shows he does because they are nothing like the UK, like the F Word or Kitchen Nightmares. Just the way the Americans do these reality shows, I can't stand, because it's all fake drama and like incredibly quick cuts, to sort of like heighten the speed of everything and to heighten the urgency. Whereas the English versions do so, like with Kitchen Nightmares, and this was years and years ago. The first American version is he's always yelling at people. He's always upset with everybody he's dealing with, and in the end it's happy ending. The English version, he didn't yell anywhere near as much. There was no dramatic music, interstitial music to sort of heighten the... it was actual reality based for as much as it could be. And there wasn't always a happy ending at the end of it, and sometimes there was, and it was just far more genuine.
Yeah, I totally lost my point with him, but yeah, but he's just tremendously talented. So, but and the people who go on the show, they're not going to walk off. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity that they're coming. So.
I'll give you one more. The death of Melanie Pillman.
Right, and we spoke. This is his second wife.
Yeah, it's the final wife. Do you remember on Raw the day after Brian Pillman died, they got Melanie Pillman for a live satellite interview?
No.
Well,
Remember they're giving a good sized push with Stone Cold, in fact, weren't they?
Yeah, with Brian. Yeah, he just couldn't move. He just couldn't move at that time. I mean, his ankle was shattered, and he was taking so many pills just to get up.
I think it looked for, I don't know. They get in their mind, then that they have to be on the road.
Well, he also had a predisposition to heart trouble as well, a genetic heart issue that ran through the family, and just the amount of pills he was taking, and it caught up to him a lot sooner than later.
I met him a couple times. I was up in Calgary, and I have a guy I worked on the docks with. He played pro ball with him, and he was undersized. For the position he played, he was a real small guy, comparatively to other guys. But I guess he was a real tough character. He seemed like a nice guy when I met him, but he was early in his career.
What did your friend say about Pillman playing football with him?
Oh, just him. He's a good guy, And someone friend of mine that worked down the docks. He was a good ball player too, from the University of Hawaii, and then lost somewhere in the translation. Ended up in Canadian football, Cincinnati Bengals, and then Canadian. So he was pretty good friends with Brian.
I mean, you may know this off the top of your head. Do you know who it was? The Cincinnati Bengals, and Brian Pillman was number 2 under somebody who was like a Hall of Famer or something. I don't know the guy's name.
No, I don't remember. Cincinnati's not really a marquee team that you would know. A friend of mine, his brother, but that's a long time ago. At the beginning of the league, a friend of mine's brother was a big time linebacker, Bill Berge. But I don't know if they're in the same era. Close, maybe. Close, possibly. Because I remember he was in the locker room in Philadelphia, the brother, and I was wrestling. So yeah, it was a few years. Could have been close.
Before we move on to the main meat of the show, because we're talking about Japan, Japanese wrestling legend Tarzan Goto died at 58. I don't know if you did any tours with him back in All Japan.
No, I saw the name and I don't. I didn't remember him. So I was sure I was secured down the docks by then. 30 years old, he's probably just starting. I had a couple. I don't know if he'd reached Tarzan status by then. So I didn't know him.
He was still Jane, maybe, at the time.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, we'll move on to the main show then. So, first trip.
Ric Flair's still making his way to. Of course, that's lost a lot of the shine from his original. And people are going, it's pro and con about his working.
Oh, you mean at like 4,000 years old? Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to die in the ring, you can die in the ring. The only objection would be that you see the workouts and stuff he's doing. You try and you put that in somebody my it's my age, he's older than me, but you put that's you're going to hurt yourself. Somebody's going to you can't. And the stuff he's doing, they're just 10, 15-second cuts, but give you the impression that he's, tearing it up, which maybe, but hey, the guy wants to die in the ring, let him die in the ring. How opportune do you get,
I mean, speaking of commissions, I mean, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was like former WCW announcer from back in the day, like one of the third string, like Chris Cruz or someone, actually wrote to some commission somewhere and said, please don't allow Ric Flair to get in the ring.
I saw that on Facebook, yeah. And they can't, but that's part of the advertising, that's part of. If he was smart, to just tie one hand behind his back, get a hot tag, go in. I mean, after all, it is professional wrestling. If there's a 6-man tag, or just throw everybody all over the ring, never take a bump, pin the guy and cover it and leave, just like that. But, it's not likely to happen that he's going to want to take a couple of slams. The Stevens turnbuckle and maybe even a slam off the top rope. Why you'd want to do that, but it's just I guess it's a pretty good betting line going in. You can get you probably like the Super Bowl. You can get odds on what's he going to do and what's going to happen.
Will he die?
Yeah, that too. Will he die, or will just lead to it?
It'll just be a leading factor in his imminent death, or will he actually die in the ring? 4-1. I'll give you 4-1.
Huh?
I'll give you 4-1.
Yeah. It'll go? He won't make it?
No, I think he will. I think he'll make it. I think it'll actually be fine. I mean, he seems to be training enough where he's taking these slams and then just pops back up. Maybe, do you know the illusion of being on the top rope, but actually he's got one foot on the second and then just sort of does, a small, tight roll onto the mat. I mean, it should be not too bad.
I don't know. Even as nice as the rings are and everything else, it's still an old body.
Still, there's older people doing it. I'm sure we talked about this last time, but I mean, I interviewed Jimmy Valiant, and he I don't know if he still is, but he was 79 when I talked to him, and I didn't realize he was still quote unquote doing matches. I don't know if he's taking any bumps or.
Yeah, but those guys are. Yeah, they're. He's being smart about it. He's out there to make a couple. He's working for money, not working for to make himself a legend. He's working for a payday. I would assume he's just working for a payday. He goes out there, does whatever he does. I'm sure he's not he's not dying all over the place.
I know I said this as well. Jerry Lawler, he's still continually wrestling, and I think you and he are about the same age. But the thing is, I mean, it's true that you build up a callus, don't you? And as soon as you stop doing it, then bumps are easy if you just continually keep taking them throughout the years. But if you stop and then start again, it's awful.
I don't know. I don't know if I had it here to that. I mean, there's wear and tear there. It's like having a bald tire. It's only a matter of time before that thing's going to blow out. And I just don't. If I could walk at all, or just I wouldn't be working. I just do something where I'd never leave. Those guys like Crusher and Bruiser, when they're in the end, so they're just ragdolling Bach and those guys all over the place. They never left their feet ever. Matches and matches. So probably they're smart. He's doing it that way. If not, they're trying to be, trying to be a hero.
Yeah, absolutely. I will move on to the main meat of the show. Then we're going to talk about your first trip to Japan. Down very much. You will do your best. And first trip to Japan. I've got it in 1977. Is that right?
Oh no. No, I was way about 70, 71. I went international. There was a third. There's a third group. They were just starting Kokusai International. There's a third. That wasn't all Japan. And Vern Gagne, AWA was feeding them guys, and they had different guys around. I was with Dusty, the Hollywood Blondes. Chief Billy Red Cloud, the guy K.O. Yates, old boxer, maybe another one or two guys from that, So I got my first time I met Dusty. I got to be friends with Dusty. The other guys, Jerry Brown and Buddy Roberts were the blondes back, were the original ones.
So that was one of my other questions. Well, a lot of my questions sort of relate to All Japan in '77 because that's the first I could tell that you went there. But they just don't take records for anything other than New Japan and All Japan. That reliably. I don't think for any other promotions. But so first time going, does Vern tell you you're going, or does Vern offer you the opportunity to go?
Yeah, you want to go, and he takes a cut. He took. I think I went for like 1,400, and he took 4. I was going for 1,000. Kick back to him, but it was close to what I was averaging in working for him. It was the first time I'd been to Japan, a 2-week trip, and it was exciting. But
I'm trying to think where to go from here then. So we'll probably talk about just Japan itself. How long was the flight for starters? Did you have to stop off in Hawaii or Vancouver or something?
Yeah, no, I went from Minneapolis. I got away a couple of days earlier. I got a day or so earlier, so I got to stop here in Hawaii. And I went surfing, and then coming back, I stopped again and got to surf again. So I squeezed a couple of days out of it. So it wasn't too bad.
So when you go over, we'll talk about probably the wrestling side of things a bit later, but I presume you went straight to Tokyo.
Yeah.
So talk about traveling. In fact, actually, like who's like your, I don't know if it's like young boy comes to get you from the airport and sorts you out, but talk about the process of being in a brand new country from the airport. How do you get to your
Sometimes it's somebody to get you. It might be somebody from the office, Tiger Chung Lee or somebody that they know from the office, and they'll put you in a taxi, and you go to your hotel, and everything's pretty rich arranged. You check in the hotel, Don Muraco, blah, okay, here's your room, sign here, and that's it. Then you get oh gosh, is that like who Curtis used to say? The only 2 things you have to know in Japan is the finish and what time the bus leaves. That's it. The rest of the time is pretty mindless.
Speaking of which, I take it the bus was the only way to travel there.
Well, yeah, but they lead you around. They have their company buses, and normally they have that, unless they'll send them ahead at times. If you're going, you're flying to one part of the country, maybe you're flying to the north, Hokkaido, and you got a couple of days later, you got a show way in the south. They might just, they're going to fly you anyway, but they, throw you in a couple taxis or something from the hotel, fly you to, say, Hokkaido, wherever it is, work 2 or 3 times, or there may be a bus, or maybe just taxis or something up there. Then you fly down to where they're going to pick you up, and you catch up with the bus later at another spot.
No, so it's not like a linear thing. You don't go from you just stay on the bus for 2 weeks and it's like stop to stop to stop.
Guys have, it's happened, but yeah, but there are times they can pull you off and fly you somewhere if you're going or doing something, something else. So I remember we had those hydro ferries, the ones that are sweet. So we went and the bus had to go over on a different ferry, and we met, you meet them somewhere else or something like that. So they're tremendous. The Japanese are incredibly organized, just unbelievable.
How does one entertain themselves on, let's say, an 8-hour bus ride to the next arena? Because this is the time before, VCRs and stuff.
No, they had the Walkmans and stuff.
What, in 1970?
Oh, well, the earphones. Wasn't long after they started the Walkman. 70, no, maybe not. Books, whatever. Or, quiet, go over your radio or something on the normally you traveled in different buses. So the Americans and the Japanese, or not the Americans, but the foreigners and the Japanese were in different buses. So it wasn't as invasive if you had your music or something going, or going later. Just read. Yeah, 8-hour trip. What are you gonna do? Sleep? Abdullah used to sleep on the back of the bus. He used to have a thing, drink his gallon of milk and go to sleep in the bus.
Full fat by any chance? Milk.
Yeah.
Were you much of a card player?
No, but there were guys. Moose Borowski. They had, he was on one of even from that tour. He was a card. In fact, he stayed on the bus. He'd go to the Japanese hotels. He'd been on 2 cockroaches running up the wall, and he'd been on anything. And there were guys that played, like New York, But Moose, I remember Moose was a big player. He loved to play card, loved gambling.
Did you have any opportunity in the early years, these first years when you were traveling, to see any historical sites or interesting places that that stuck in your mind?
Oh yeah, as you're going by, they point out, the Imperial Gardens or Mount Fuji, all these, you go by all these places. Then when you ride on the bus, and you're on those highways, they have those the truck stops and stuff where you eat, where they got just fabulous, well, country style, home style food, but the eating's pretty good.
We'll talk about food in a bit. Hotels. So, what were the hotels like in the main cities? What were the hotels like in the more rural areas where you were traveling?
Well, in Noki, we had a nice place. We had the Kio Plaza, but the rest of the places were just little closets. You'd have the just Japanese room. Not occasionally you might have a Western style room, but normally they just have a bed, like a desk, a TV. Sometimes coins or not, and a bathroom situated on the side. I'm looking at my kitchen here, not much bigger than this kitchen here, Room for you to, I don't know what the giant Andre did. He must have suffered, some of those guys.
I was going to say, you're a big enough man, you're like 3 times the size of some of the people over there, So, how did you deal with, like, small doorways and small beds and stuff?
They weren't too bad for us. I think for the, some of the real, the guys that were from like Mulligan up or bigger guys than that, to Andre, I would imagine they'd be, rough.
I've got to ask this: the facilities, for the most part, were these still holes in the floor at this time?
No, Western bathrooms, well, and that was, you have a shower, a sink, a shower, and a toilet, and just a little area like this. And it wasn't, not like Scarface or anything like that. But you could get, it was one of those tubs you could fill in and Fudo type. You could take a hot tub and stuff in it. And so most of the baths are like that, where you can get in and soak and stuff. But you gotta, kind of crouch up. But,
Did you ever end up in one of those places where, like a really proper traditional Japanese house, where it's like sliding paper doors and no furniture and wooden clogs you have to wear?
Yeah, they have to put your bed on the floor. You go out, you eat at night. You go to the matches. They take you to eat or something, and you come in. You have this huge room. I think Dusty and I were. They put Dusty and I on the same. It was a huge room, and I think even an opening room. Big room, big. 400 or 500 square feet, just long, big, and then you put your beds in the middle. They roll it out. You have the tatami, on the floor. They're pretty cool. They're warm. It was cold there. We're up in the mountains or someplace, and the beds were really, it was really cool. You get some of those Japanese hotels are really cool.
You said Andre specifically would have really struggled. Well, I mean, how did Andre deal with some of the smaller hotels?
God, I don't know. They probably made, I'm sure the office would make allotments, arrangements for him before he got somewhere. So they had a special room for him to go to. Well, he had those everywhere he went. I mean, United States or Europe or no matter where he went, he had, his over length of the bed or the width or whatever. He was always a giant.
Yeah, is there any wonder he got grumpy as the years progressed, I suppose?
He just got tired, yeah. Road weary.
Did I mean, I think I may have asked this before, but Andre the Giant on an aeroplane, how did he deal with anything on an aeroplane? I mean, did he take up 3 seats?
Normally at first, sometimes in the old days they give him 2 seats. Normally they had him in first, but there are flights where they don't have. There were flights where they didn't have first. Walked in one time, was using 3 seats across. He had the 2, and he was sitting next to a nun, Roman Catholic nun. That kind of looked funny, but nobody's really into busting on Andre's balls that heavy, It looked funny.
We will move on to possibly our favourite topic off air, and it is food. Give me some typical meals that you would eat on the road while in Japan.
I came from Hawaii. I'm from Hawaii. So, I had a lot of long exposure to a lot of Japanese food, Japanese meals and Japanese food and the sashimi. This is going back to the 70s with raw fish and, all that, all that stuff wasn't that foreign, to me, but a lot of guys, I remember a couple of black guys with Ray Candy and, those guys, they would just die. And they would be hunting Kentucky Fried Chicken or so wherever we went. I was with Ray one time. And it was like those soybean pods, the soybeans, and when it was a kind of, you fry them real hot, and they put them in the plate, and they keep moving. That's like, I don't be eating no food that be moving. That's impossible. No. Yeah, some guys really didn't. And the meat's expensive. So some guys didn't want to bust down and buy steaks or something. We got to like a Ribera or a steak place or something like that. I remember a couple Argentinian guys and stuff were on the tour. Beef we have. But with the meals you have spaghetti bolognese, hamburger steak, curry and rice, probably katsu curry, the fried chicken, fried katsu and curry. Oh God, those are pretty much your primary meals in the Western hotels where they dump you, and then you can go and they have by the train stations and stuff. They'd have your ramen and if you knew your way around and you knew what you like to eat, you could go out and sushi bar or a noodle place or Chinese restaurant.
What's a packed lunch look like in Japan in the early 70s?
Bento. They have some of the pickled vegetables, a piece of shrimp, a piece of chicken, some kind of rice, some kind of rolled sushi. That not a nigiri, not a raw fish sushi, but another rice staple. They weren't too bad.
Let me have a look. Maybe asking for drinks in a second. Worst Japanese food, what would you avoid?
Oh God, there's places you don't know. Some of the stuff is really fishy. There's a lot of stuff. The Japan, that the Americans are, gaijin. don't. There's a lot. I even watch shows. They have little vegetables and little things. They make a whole meal out of a Brussels sprout or something. This area is known for mushrooms or Brussels. And then they'll create a whole meal around that. There's different types of a lot of fish, a lot of and I wasn't really bony. I didn't like bony fish, so there's some fish issues.
Yeah, there's I won't bore you with what it is. There's quite a famous travelogue person over here. He's called Clive James, and he did a very famous show about Japan. And he was on a train, and he was once given a entire squid that looked like it had been ironed. So it was like iron flat.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah. Did you ever get the iron flat squid?
That's what they sell. They have those at in America, we have our popcorn and our hot dogs and our potato chip, from the snack bars and stuff like that. That's what the Japanese have at their snack bars. The iron squid, paste some kind of sauce, an oyster sauce on them, and the donuts and yakisoba, the fried noodles, and that's their popcorn and Cracker Jacks.
Oh, dearie me. I did have something else I was going to ask about food. We do talk about food quite a lot, in fairness, but I will move on then to actually probably our joint favourite topic is best beers in Japan. Give me your top 3 that you would aim for.
Kirin, they're all fresh there. It's not like you're getting, like over here. Sometimes I go. There's a couple of places I'll go to, and how's you have the same distributor that the place down the street, and the other places and things. Oh yeah. Well, then they get Stella that's fresh, and taste all their beer. They have all. You might go through one portion of town. It's all Kirin, or all Asahi, or all Suntory, or whatever it is. You just and they all deal with just one company. It's but they're all good. They're all good. When they're fresh, when they get to Hawaii, I think they go to California first to come back from Hawaii. So that, when they get here, they kind of lost a lot of their flavor and stuff, like a lot of the European beers we get here. After a while, they go kind of green. Once in a while, you get a Stella or something. Oh, this is this one snuck across the border. It came fast. You can tell it's a fresh beer. A friend of mine was in the Busch Gardens one time. He says, "Oh, you can't tell." Yeah, the guy poured out 3 glasses of beer. This is a stale beer. This is a beer that goes on the market. It's been out a couple of weeks, and this is the brand new fresh one. And he went right. This is this, and he just named them right down the line. And he was a Budweiser drinker either, because says this is that, and the bottom. This is the shit we get in Hawaii.
I'm trying to think with spirits. Were you ever much of a spirit drinker?
Yeah, at times, yeah. What do they have? Well, they have the Suntory whiskey too. They have all kinds of whiskey and everything. You buy everything right out of the machines, right out of the food machines. You could buy, you get beer in the evening, at night, if you want. Some right in the hotels too. They got like cook machines. Go with your 200-300 yen, boom, 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 and you're ready to go.
So give me the most ideal drink if you had to drink it all night in Japan. Japanese drink, what would you have?
Beer, sake. They have mixed drinks as well. The Japanese they Scotch. I'm not a Scotch drinker, but they like the Scotch and the Scotches in their whiskeys. I don't think they're real big on vodka and gins and stuff like that. They like the darker whiskeys.
Someone asked me to ask if you ever tried Pocari Sweat.
Yeah. It's kind of a Gatorade knockoff. I don't know what the translation is, but it's not actually sweat. It's a energy replacement drink. That's old. That's as old as I remember, my early tours in Japan, Pocari Sweats, they'd bring back, cases for the locker room and stuff.
Is that the one that tastes or has the same consistency as saliva? Because I seem to it like really like it just tastes just like you're just drinking more saliva. I can't remember if I tried it or not.
I never thought it was that bad. I was kind of got it like, a poor man's Gatorade or, a Japanese Gatorade. Never saliva. I never got a saliva vibe out of it.
No, I can't remember what I drank. I remember just drinking something that tasted just like that, had the exact consistency that was not pleasant.
Well, they got, the Japanese, they got some god awful stuff. The medicines that they have, and it's all kinds of, it's a different world. It's Eastern philosophy, different little black stink pills for upset stomachs, and all kinds of little magic things that those you put the things on your back to burn.
Oh yeah, those suction things.
Cupping, yeah.
Yeah.
Cupping. That was back in the when I was 70s. When I first went over there before that 77 trip, they had that cupping and stuff.
Have you ever? I've seen it once on the internet, and I didn't mean to because I'm dead squeamish. But when cupping goes wrong, have you ever seen that?
No.
It's just like someone's filming it and cupping on the back, and then there's a cut. Somehow there's a laceration on the back, and just the entire cup just fills with blood. It just goes like that. It's gross.
Oh, like the pimple popper.
Yeah. If that's your kind of thing, which it is definitely not my kind of thing. I'll move on then. Japanese sponsor culture. When did you first encounter a sponsor?
Oh God! After the match, the regular boys don't normally, When I went out with Tanner one night, he had a sponsor, and he took us all over the place, and yeah, that I don't know why, it's a Eastern principle. I don't know, the thinking or something behind it. But the guy, it brings him honor to take you out, and everything, it's a culture of honor and face and stuff like that. I guess to have a professional wrestler, be entertaining. I don't know, what that's about. But they take you out, like they take you normally like to a beer place. Used to be a Joe Pearl, where the guys used to buy the jewelry and stuff down in the Ginza. There's a jeweler, Joe Pearl. They can call him Joe Pearl. I don't know what his name, but he is the MO. They take you to the beer place, where they get you slopping, they booze you out with all kinds of beer. Then the next stop, he'll take you to a bunny club, where they have the expensive, the drinks and stuff. You're still drinking beer, but it's just a high caste place with and it's usually early too, before they, because they want to get the gaijin in and out of there, before they start doing regular business. They want to get the white guys in and out, and not have them, stinking up the joint till they're, and then so they get you out and have you, and you sit around, these beautiful made tables, and maybe a bottle of scotch and a bottle of cognac on the table and stuff like that. Whoa, so then you burn out after a couple, an hour there, and you'd be gone. Not that many guys would hang.
Did you have a sponsor for yourself, or were you always on somebody else? Like somebody else's sponsor would invite you along with them?
Yeah, no, I got Abby took me I went with Abby a couple times. Abby had a couple sponsors. Who else? Holly was there with his wife, so he didn't go out. He didn't have any sponsors at
Stan
that time.
Hansen, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, probably those kind of, but Stan wasn't I don't think Stan was a party guy or go out guy. I don't know. I'm sure, all those guys had sponsors, one way, probably one way or another. Bruiser was Curtis, the one, King Curtis. He's the one. A lot of guys will tell you he taught guys about the red light area. Where it's always open. You go get food or cocktails or music or whatever. Into the wee hours of the morning. In Japan, there's a area where you can go there, and some of those guys that can just sit back and cruise for hours. Curtis is one of them. He loves Japan. But yeah, as myself, I don't know too many guys that had sponsors. The guys that were there, Abby and maybe a couple other. I'm sure the other guys.
Well, with sponsorship, generally goes the mafia, the yakuza. As far as I mean, some sponsors are just fans who like to be seen with the wrestlers and pay for their meals and stuff, and maybe give them a lift somewhere. But a lot of the sponsors are also mafioso. And what were your first encounters with the yakuza?
Nothing. I never had any runs with them or nothing. I would stay with the boys. I'd just hang. I wouldn't, once in a while, hey, baby, Abdullah, you want to go? You want to go? My friend, my sponsor's here. Take us to town, something like that. But not, I wasn't a big. So once in a while, I get to Tokyo, Slater or a couple of guys. You might go and hit. Where was it? Roppongi. Have a couple of beers down there or something like that. But boy, those places are maniacal. How crowded they get. Then you got to bid for taxis, stuff going back to the hotel. It's but good food. It's it's really it's entertaining being there. If you can eat, if you know how to eat, you know how to get around a little bit, you're in pretty good shape there. If you don't, boy, you can have a miserable couple weeks.
Me and a friend, when we went, we are not stupid people, and we're both pretty well traveled, and we stood in front of a vending machine to spit out tickets for the underground or the subway or whatever they call it for over half an hour. We could not make head nor tail of the signage, even put it in English on the thing. We couldn't make any headway with it at all. Until then, we realised we were buying tickets for a train that was nowhere near the subway. And then we had to run about 5 minutes around the corner to get through. It's so confusing. Just that's the kind of place that would terrify me if I was on my own.
We always had a liaison. If you're on a tour, you always had a liaison. If you're walking through the train station, it's like almost you're following Joe Higuchi or Peter Takahashi for the other crew. You're just following the guy through the airport. They had rarely you're handling tickets or handling anything. They all had it. The Japanese are, they're so they're not gonna try and beat the train guy out of two guys. Out of two passengers or something. Try and beat him for two tickets or an extra ticket. They're going to have it all down. How many guys? You got 6 guys, 8 guys, whatever, 6 tickets, boom, boom. Here's your seating. Here's everything else. It's just the organization is really, really remarkable.
To harp on it slightly more, with the Yakuza, they wear odd sweaters and sometimes missing a thumb or a pinky. We'll get on that in a second, but would you ever see them in certain sections of the audience? I know they were big in FMW, wanting to be seen, but was that the same, All Japan, New Japan later on down the line for you? Did you know where they were sat?
No. You're in a tour, even if I went 13 times, that's pretty much, pretty much ignorant to it, what was going on. I did Yakuza and stuff, you don't fool with the fans, and the fans don't really fool with you. So there's no reason to, slap anybody or, push anybody or anything like that. Normally, we're the type of matches were, even when I was in my heyday as a heel, and didn't really have heat, just go out there and just have work a easy match, somewhat not easy match, but a scientific, wrestling hold match. And you get a little bit of heat, a little bit of comeback, and that's about it.
So I take it you don't know any involvement as far as putting money into certain promotions then?
No. Not the boy. You mean Americans?
No, the mafia.
Could be. Like I said, a lot of stuff that goes on with the Japanese. You have, you don't have a, you don't have a. We didn't have a. Us being foreigners didn't have a handle on anything like that. They had a, their business they run up front and how to run it and everything else. And then we're talking about. I saw some questions about Inoki and Baba and stuff, but they all have, these guys that are presidents, the presidents or consultants or big shots that show up and, kind of walk around, Mr. Ito or Mr. that, he's supposed to be the, guy that's checking things. So he'd be the one that, would have the Yakuza liaisons or Yakuza, as far as investing or money or anything, I wouldn't know. Like I think the boys used to have towns, like if somebody would wrestle one of the wrestlers, and he had some outlying city, a country type city, and somebody there wanted a promotion, then he'd be probably the liaison for that, that'd be his town and stuff like that, because Japan's loaded with all kinds of cities and towns all over the place to run shows. So, but as far as Yakuza and gangsters, yeah, we're kind of our little sheltered group.
We'll do a few more things on Japan. I'm actually going to go to what I think is your first All Japan tour in 1977 July. It's just like a big step up from the third promotion. Was All Japan the number one promotion at the time?
All Japan and New Japan. I was all Japan started, and I don't know how they broke up, but Inoki and or Baba were the two big cards for Ricky Dozan, and somehow Inoki broke off with Carl Gotch, and that I don't know all the stories and particulars there, but they got he started his own company, and there were those two. Now there's about 40 companies there, I guess. It's loaded.
Who recommended you for the All Japan gig? Because if this was 77, would this have been Florida, where you were at?
Gee, I don't know. I don't remember back then. Probably Tally Ho. He was booking for Baba forever. He had where's that coming from? Florida?
No, I'm trying to think where you would have been in 1977. So I'm just looking that up. But I'll tell you what, I'll find that out. But you tell me about Giant Baba.
Florida?
Yeah, Giant Baba. First time meeting him.
Oh, not your typical Bobby Heenan personality. He sat there with a cigar on his chair there watching the thing. The Japanese loved him. He was a fragile old guy, skinny old guy, and but it was your business to fly for him. And you didn't get to work with him unless you're you're gonna Pretty decent guy. He'd work with some guys pretty. Murdoch, some of those guys would beat the hell out of him at times, but most of the other guys just wouldn't lay off.
I mean, he's quite famous for having some real stinkers in the '90s. But I mean, was he always, as far as what we call work rate or what you call work rate, was he always rotten?
Yeah, yeah, it was. He was a hero, a folk hero. The Japanese are funny. I remember seeing a thing of Saito when he was really hurting, when he had that. What did he have, MLS or something like that? And he went in some kind of muscular dystrophy or something, and they brought him in, introduced him, and he went in the ring, and he went and he was, and all the working boys lined up, and they'd try to lock him up with him. He'd push him off, and they'd take bumps and stuff, and he could barely walk. He was like me, he could barely move around. Then they were there, and some young boy would lock up, and push him. The kid would take a bump. And the people would clap and cheer and go crazy. The Japanese are different,
Masa Saito died of Parkinson's disease. So
yeah,
I'm trying to think.
Sorry,
I was going to go back to Giant Baba. I suppose as a boss then, so he was just, very stoic, not very chatty. Payoff guy, was he any good? I mean, a lot of people seem to want to work for him.
Well, everybody went over there when they went over there on a contract. Nobody went over, to draw houses or anything. You're going for a weekly shot. You had a weekly $2,000 or $1,000 or whatever you're making a week, whatever whatever your contract was. Because that was all arranged before you even left. They had, the money and stuff like that. And then maybe they'd have a bullshit bench press contest or something. And when Tony Atlas or somebody was around, they give you extra $100 or something just to take part in something like that, or something like that, or they take you out to dinner, something like that. But it wasn't anywhere where you went till later, I guess. When guys were taking pictures and doing their own autographs and stuff.
I will move on. So on this first All Japan tour, some of the other gaijin that you're with: Dick Murdoch, the Destroyer, Moose Morowski, or am I not pronouncing it right? Is it Moose Morowski? Yeah. And Colonel De Beers. To pluck a name from that four, Colonel De Beers. I don't think I've ever asked you about him. What was that guy all about?
Ed Wiskowski. Easy Ed. He was good. He was turned out to be. He was a hell of a worker. And I think he ended up in Oregon, and got on that tour. I hung with him. That was my buddy on that tour, Easy Ed and Murdoch. We'd go out, we had a day off in town and be with Murdoch. And God, we must have had 10 of those big beers last night, or 10 something. Next day, Murdoch would come in. I had 20 of them. Murdoch was always, and we're not trying to, put yourself over, just remarking, and then he comes, wow, you had 10, I had 20 last night. It was okay, yay.
Dick Murdoch would on occasion, just to amuse himself, just dick around in the ring and not take it seriously. Was he always serious in Japan?
No, I don't think so. He wasn't always serious. His work was, he's that style, take you over, ride you, high spot, boom, boom, boom. All that, he had that funk style, that East West Texas style, Amarillo style. And I heard one time that there was a story about him. Somebody threw an orange or something from the crowd, and the orange hit him, and it wasn't, it didn't even come from the top bleachers. This orange hit him. He took a hell of a bump and sold the shit out of it. Murdoch he could get goofy.
There was I'm sure I've seen a match once when someone knocks him down and he does that on the floor, running man in a circle. So his head will be in the middle and then his legs will just go.
You Stooges, yeah.
Dear me.
Yeah, you can get silly, but great ad.
Of the other names, Moose Morowski, I know nothing of Moose.
Canadian. I met him when I first broke in Vancouver, and big guy, good sized guy. He was, like I said, he was a gambler, loved to gamble. God, I don't know why he never, I never pushed it. I guess is wrestlers are different, in those days. They just, they worked to get by, and had a small investment or something. It wasn't the case of, WWE and investing and saving your money and buying a company or forming something like that. So he would go around, and I guess he just lived on the road. Some of these guys just lived on the road all their life, had families and stuff, but started on the road, and like hardly ever went home again. They'll talk about their daughters and their kids and stuff, but like play cards.
Yeah, like so many do. This will probably be the last question then. And strong style is something that comes up a lot with Japanese wrestling. Was that a thing in the early 70s, or did they work basically as snug as the Americans did?
Yeah, I thought they were always good workers. Everybody was that strong style. That was after. That was when who was the guy that did all the death matches and stuff?
Well, loads of them did, but Sabu, Onita.
Onita, yeah, the one that got real big over there. That started all the pills and shit. Yeah, they were no. When I was there, and I don't know who started that rumor, who started, about the Japs being stiff and hurting you and everything else. I guess if you hurt them, that they may, if you deliberately, if you accidentally potato them or hit somebody or something, they wouldn't have a vendetta. Not that many guys did. There wasn't a need for, a lot of dangerous stuff. It just good, solid working. It was good, a lot of mat work, a lot of simple high spots, and they would sell. You would sell. I don't know how guys had a hard time after a while, or even some guys did. I don't know. And then I got you'd hear the story how they were stiff and just you have to beat them harder or whatever. I don't believe that. I saw some dynamite. Some guys had some knockouts with a couple, but they were in Japan all the time. And they were working out with the boys and they were in the they were all the time. So there were more personalities, and they just did come, and you go to your locker room. Gaijin, one Japanese had their own locker room, so you get in. Everybody start changing and stuff. They'd come in with the 8x11 paper, put that on the wall. Number 1, Billy Red Cloud with that. 2, Muraco with Yatsu or somebody. Jumbo Teruta, number 3, or they're in a tag team match. You might be wrestling a tag team match against the Gaijin guy, one of your own guys. Made it super easy, so it's just not it wasn't a real mystery. How they do their business is not a mystery, but it's just they have a process that they do it, and the way they do it is just different from how they do it in the West. It's
just because you mentioned your surname there, how did they pronounce your surname?
Don Muraco. Yeah.
So they basically got it right.
Kind of, yeah. De Beers, he was. I think he was Wiskowski, still Wisconsin. Edu Wiskowski. They could murder. They could murder some. Edu Wiskowski. There's something. Wiskowski wasn't in their dictionary, man. But some guys,
There's something else I've just actually remembered to ask you. A couple of things, actually. So this will go in the sort of same section. Is the rings, how did they compare to American rings? Stiffer? What were the ropes like, etc.?
Good rings, all good rings. Always good rings. Not like, probably foreshadowing, the good NWA, WWF rings. Maybe not, not like the trampoline like WWF and, those great places, big places had after a while. But they were always, it was always good. It was the same, the ring truck that followed you around.
And to end it on, and I can't believe I didn't write this in the questions because it's one of the most obvious questions to ask, is audiences. And the first time you wrestled in front of a Japanese audience, what were you told to expect and what happened? And did it throw you off your game?
Sure. Yeah. Nothing. Nothing. Yeah. And you big high, you get a big high spot or big long high spot or something good though. Ooh, yeah. And then you get a little applause and that's it. And then, some guys, you later, they're guys, you get there, or Abdullah or Jeet Singh or one of those guys later on, Hulk Hogan, some of the guys that they're building up, they would have something and they would, yay, at the end, but it wouldn't be a back and forth, go, come up stomping and clapping their feet, clapping their hands in unison, or, it was nothing like that.
Do you remember Japanese audiences reacting, apart from like a spinning toe hold, which they would love for some reason, but, did they react better to brawling? Did they react better to an arm wringer? Did they react better to submissions or jumping off the top rope? What did they like the most?
A good high spot. Good fast high spots. The combination of moves working together. The chopping and the punching and kicking didn't really get over too much. That and if you went for it, there's nothing there. I mean, there was nothing to tell you whether it was working or not. So you things you pull hair, pull tights, just cheap heat. But then you'd get you'd hit that one point where before you go for the finish or something where you chop a bunch of meat, start punching and kicking and stuff, and give the Japanese guy a comeback, going into something, whatever the finish was, whatever you're working in. So you work something out.
Are the fans more fanatical in maybe trying to find out what hotel you're staying in, or following the bus, or trying to just get a piece of you, or just touch you?
More fanatical than what, U.S. or?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're Eastern. They're just so tremendous. Guys, they'd be here. They'd be at the hotel, and I have these are pictures of you and your wrestling match, and when you were in Milwaukee, when you were in Miami, when you were here, when you were there. They have the stuff. How meticulous the stuff they used to be, and how they're Dave Meltzer. Their underground stuff was way ahead of anything going down. Coming out of. Well, they're 10, 15 light years ahead of what was going down in the United States and how the fans and stuff were organized, and they're different people. You can't expect the Japanese to be the 4,000 years and had the same culture, and you're not going to go over there and a couple of drop kicks and a couple of big punches and change the whole the whole makeup of the card.
And one more thing to end it on. The Japanese people in general, when you first went there, so this was 71 you said. So that's about, 15 years after the American occupation of Japan? Because I think they stayed for about 10 years and then left. Yeah. And, a lot of those, probably the majority would have lived through World War II. The vast majority would have lived through World War II. Did they really hate Americans at that time still?
Never got that vibe. I'm sure they probably did, but even in the matches, never, like, guys had been there, and you're around so many different towns. You never got that vibe that you really hated and stuff. More that you were kind of, that you're different. You knew you're different. So
Were you stared at more than usual? Then I presume you were.
I suppose. Like I said, they have their own lives to live. They don't really, they don't really obsess unless they're obsessive people about whatever topic they happen to be involved in.
I think we. Oh, actually, no. I will actually just ask this then. Were you told, like, I don't know if you ever wrestled in Hiroshima or anything like that, but were you told to be like extra good behavior in certain places of maybe cultural sensitivity?
No. Lots of times you didn't even know where the hell you were. A lot of the town, these small towns were outside of a big area. But how much heat can you get trying to put over an atomic bomb? That's pretty tasteless. Try to, boom, okay.
There we go. I think no, no better time to end the podcast there on the on trying to get heat on with World War II. Okay, we'll shut the podcast down. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be doing a part 2 that you will see next week, but we'll be doing now asking fan questions all about Japanese wrestling. So for now, thank you for watching, and thank you, Don, once again for entertaining us.
Howdy ho.